This week we celebrate one goal. A solitary goal that was mishit, probably, from the edge of the area, bounced over the keeper into the net and saved Everton Football Club from relegation and largely put them where they are today, on the verge of a place in Europe. We're honoured to say that the scorer of that goal in 1994 against Wimbledon is with us today. In Liverpool, he can barely walk the streets, but here at the Alexander in Weybridge, he's playing Graham Stuart, humble superstar. We'll also be meeting another superstar from recent times, Alan Devonshire of England and West Ham. So great, they named a racehorse after him. We'll be meeting Alan Devonshire the horse and Alan Devonshire the man in part two. One of Dev's teammates, Tony Gale, of course, is with us to look ahead to the fixtures, alongside Alan Bentley of Private Line 88. More pressure than usual on those two this week as we introduce the off-the-bar tipping table. And with that in mind, let's crack on with this weekend's fixtures. The big games are on Sunday once again, but Harry's trip to one of his old clubs, West Ham, should be interesting, especially as he seems to have started pulling Rangers round. And a second City derby sees struggling Villa up against a West Brom side who continue to defy the pundits, including ours. No room for the faint-hearted at Stamford Bridge on Sunday. Chelsea and Arsenal both desperate to prove they can restore former glories, while Spurs against Manchester United is one to savour. The side that Graham Stuart saved travel to Southampton, who are unbeaten in 5 on Monday night. Well, after the build-up we gave him in the introduction, there can be no excuse for keeping you waiting any longer. It's time to meet Graham Stuart, Everton superstar. Welcome, Graham.
Thank you very much, Matt. Nice to be here.
Slightly tongue-in-cheek, that intro, but parts of it, parts of it are actually sincere. I mean, you speak to Everton fans and they credit you with keeping them up and keeping the club on course. Yeah,
I suppose it's a nice thing for me to have an association with the Evertonians. It was a crazy day, it really was, and you know, anybody who's experienced life on Merseyside and what the passion of football is up there, you know, that's probably why they're so nice to me, you know, right up to this day.
Well, they should be, because it wasn't only that goal, it was the one in the FA Cup that you nearly scored but didn't quite, but anyway.
Little 1-2 off the bar. Everybody, the amount of people who've come up to me and said, I had you first goal scorer, you should have, you know, you were 10-1 to score the first goal. What they don't realise is I had ride out. So a little 1-2 off the bar, ride out, quids in I was.
Now, I've worked out, because I'm bright like this, that you're not from Liverpool, but how are you welcomed there? Are you an honorary Scouser?
Yeah, that's what I've been called a few times, an honorary Scouser, but I mean, I've lived up there. I still, to this day, live in Merseyside. But the one thing that I've never been able to get rid of is this London accent, obviously. It's the giveaway. But the people up there are really, really good to me. Genuine people. You know, they're very, very passionate. There's no airs and graces with them. And I either love you or I hate you, Liverpool people. And fortunately, I've got a bit more love than hate, I think.
Do you identify more with them than the Chelsea ones or the Charlton fans?
No, I think you never forget your roots, do you? That's the most important thing. That's what I was always told. Never forget where you've come from, and I don't. You know, I served my schoolboy days there, my apprenticeship, and then obviously making my full debut. And we had a good group of youngsters coming through, and we had some top experienced players as well, in the Kerry Dixons, the Paul Elliots, the Vinnie Jones, Wise. You know, people like that. We were knocked into shape a good few times.
That's almost a rogues gallery, I think, you quoted there.
Oh, you should have seen the team picture every year. It was who can get to the back the fastest, I tell you.
Do you look at what they're doing now and wonder why? Because it's a different Chelsea nowadays.
It is hugely different. All you have to do is roll up to Stamford Bridge now, and it's a far cry from what it was. You know, we had the track, we had the greyhound track round the outside. The crowd always used to seem so far away from the pitch. Now there's buildings left, right, and centre, hotels there, bars there, restaurants. It's a phenomenal, you know, ground to go and visit. And obviously they've had huge amounts of money ploughed into the football club by Roman Abramovich. They've had success. Trophy cabinets regularly filled up. So, I mean, you can't knock anything anybody's done there. It's all been for the good.
But in the league, Everton are doing the better. I mean, how far do you think they can go?
I think it'll be difficult for Everton to make the top 4. I mean, I've always said they were in with a fighting chance, but I think a lot depends on whether they can keep their top players fit. They have to keep Fellaini on the pitch, have to keep Leighton Baines, Jagielka, etc. Those kind of players have to play week in, week out for Everton to achieve a top 4 position. Realistically, I think, you know, 5th or 6th is there for the taking for them, and European football again. I think that would represent a really good season for Everton.
The question always posed to Everton fans is, what would you do if David Moyes left? How important is he to that club?
Well, he's hugely important. I mean, I read a quote from him saying that he's taken baby steps with Everton. You know, he's been there 10 plus years, and slowly but surely he's built the club up. He's been excellent for the football club, kept everybody on their toes, and looks after the top players there as well. He makes sure they don't train too much. They've got it plenty in the tank for match days and stuff like that. So I think there's good man management. A manager that recognises that the older players just, you know, they only need a half hour every so often. Make sure they're all right for the big games.
Well, it works, obviously. Now, we're talking football here, again, obviously, but you'd rather be talking Speedway.
I do love my Speedway.
Do you go?
I do go as much as I possibly can, yeah. I know the manager and the promoter down at Poole, and a couple of the riders down there as well. It was Chris Holder, the world champion, and a young kid on the block, Australian kid called Darcy Ward. They're probably the two brightest lights in Speedway at this moment in time, so we got a good association with them.
Well, talking of bright lights, I have done my research. I spent 5 minutes on the internet before you came, and I discovered that a Graham Stuart autograph photograph is currently available for 30 quid.
30 quid, that much?
You've done well, haven't you?
Well, I wouldn't pay 30 quid for a signed photo of myself, I know that.
Well, you ought to be honoured, because the equivalent of Tony Gale is available at 99 pence.
Really? Well, I'm not going to tell him. You can tell him. He's bigger than me.
All right, I think I might do, just a little later on. For the time being, Graham, thank you very much.
It's a pleasure. Thanks, Matt.
Liverpool against Norwich, the first fixture on my list. Alan, you could have got, I don't know if you still can, a big price on Norwich.
Well, you can, and the thing is, though, Norwich have tailed off in recent weeks. The problem is I can't back Liverpool either at such a short price. There's no value in this game at all, so what I'm going to do is throw something in. This was the last game in front of the Kop, Liverpool against Norwich, so in the absence of a proper bet, who scored the last goal in front of the Kop? There's my question for you two.
Bring gun.
Chris Sutton.
Go on.
Both wrong. Crack on.
You're not going to tell us?
I'll tell you at the end.
Oh, you're a tease.
Yeah.
Up there on your cushion. What do you reckon then, Liverpool-Norwich?
Well, if we're going purely for the result, although there's no value in the bet, I'd have to go for Liverpool, Matt. I was very disappointed with Liverpool last week. I went up to Old Trafford to see the game, massive game. I'm disappointed in Brendan Rodgers, the way he set the team out at the start, just to defend against Manchester United. They're better than that, and they've got to believe that they're better than that if they want to crack on, I think, Liverpool. So, be interesting now, Sturridge playing with Suarez. What do? One up top, one behind, or one wide, or whatever. But play and play to attack teams. And I think that was the message that came out last week. And they'll be too good for Norwich.
Manchester City against Fulham, that should be an easy job for you.
Well, I think so. I mean, this is a funny one. I mean, Liverpool are, with some bookies, the same price as City to win, which is bonkers. This will be a straightforward win for City. Fulham had a good win at West Brom, but are no great shakes. It's again trying to find that bit of value. The way I'm going to play this is Man City to win 2-0, as it were. So Fulham not to score. It's around about 6-5. City to win 2-0.
So that's a good bet, because Fulham obviously played Blackpool in the week as well, and they struggled to win after extra time. England got the winner, and Fulham have been disappointed, particularly on their travels. They're no good away from home. They're underachieving this year, Fulham, and I know Berbatov played well and Ruiz has just come back to fitness, but they're underachieving.
OK, as are Newcastle United, who face Reading.
They are indeed, although I do fancy them to beat Reading. I know Reading had that monumental victory against West Brom, which helped me in my little lacquer last week, but don't fancy them at all. Still think they're an ordinary team. Two ordinary teams, in fact. A game, again, I'm going to leave alone, although I do think Newcastle win. 5-6, Newcastle.
Yeah, well done on your acca last week.
Mate.
I thought
Did he mention that?
No, he's only mentioned it 12 times over there. No, but I was at that Reading game last week. Where that came from, I don't know. If you had an acca on that and you were listening, you were 2-0 down with 8 minutes to go. Reading were playing hopeless. Half of the fans had left the ground, and in 8 minutes they got 3 goals. It was an incredible turn of events. I'd have to go for a Newcastle win as well, because I don't think, you know, that Reading can turn it around that much that they'll go up to St James's and get a result. I think it's a Newcastle win that's going to be desperately needed as well.
Still time to buy. Do you think Pardew will?
Well, I was at a function yesterday. It was Derek Lamb buys. I know they're actually, you know, they're very active, and they've lost out on a couple of buys. One to Queen's Park Rangers. Yeah, and I mean, that was a big loss. But if they're not going to pay the money, if they're not going to go above their wage structure, they're going to lose out on their big players. I think they have to decide where they're going, Newcastle, in the transfer market. He will sign, but don't expect big top quality players.
From Swansea against Stoke, that's a clash of styles if ever there was one.
Well, it is, but it's a funny one, isn't it? Because Stoke, after the victory they had against Liverpool, have started conceding goals. They've been odd in recent weeks. I think they'll tighten up against Swansea. Swansea have had this huge run of games because of the cup competitions they've been involved in. They've drawn 6 at home. Stoke have drawn 6 away. Sadly, I'm going to sit on Gale's fence, go with the draw. That's the one for me.
I'm not going to sit on my own fence this time. I'm going to go for a Stoke away win because Swansea have got Chelsea coming up on the Wednesday. I'm travelling up for the game, and I think Swansea will really look at that game, target that game. A Wembley appearance, they're 2 up against Chelsea. He may even leave a couple of players out, surprisingly, for a Premier League match, but they are safe. There's no question about that. So I'm going to go for a Stoke win. It's like Beauty and the Beast. Lovely football from Swansea, and Stoke will sit back and just hit them with those set pieces when they can get a chance, and they'll nick the win.
And the tension builds as we all wonder who scored the last goal in front of the Kop.
There you go. When do you want to know? Do you want to know now or later?
I'm going to look it up in a minute if you don't tell us.
That means going on the internet, so that counts you out.
You spinning it on?
Who is it?
Jeremy Goss.
Oh, I knew it anyway.
I knew it anyway. It's nice to indulge him, isn't it?
Yeah.
And there'll be more questions from our junior mastermind sitting on his cushion in part 2. Welcome back to part 2 of Off the Bar and part 2 of our look at the fixtures in the company of Alan Bentley and Tony Gale. Tony Gale, West Ham against QPR. Is it me or are QPR playing more games than everybody else? They seem to pop up twice in every list.
Yeah, keep coming up on the telly as well, don't they? And they're getting results. That's the most important thing, Matt. But getting results, just defending, leaving one up front, interact, and, you know, sucking the big teams onto them. But now they're playing a lesser team like West Ham. They have to go for the 3 points. And when you go for the 3 points, it's a different kettle of fish for me. And this is where I think they could come unstuck. And West Ham, who rested players in midweek against Manchester United, can beat them at home.
Well, QPR need wins. There's no two ways about that, don't they? But I'm not sure they can get it at West Ham, as you just said. I don't fancy West Ham, though, either. That's the problem. No pace in the team. You know, I don't know how to call this one. West Ham 11 to 10, QPR around about 3s. Do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to have a little bit on a red card around about 4 to 1.
Wigan against Sunderland. This will probably be number 1 on Match of the Day, I think.
Yeah, probably a 0-0. I'm going to go for the draw in this one, Matt. But Sunderland have edged their way clear of the relegation places. Wigan, they're hovering in and around it, still trying to play their football. They know how to get out of it at the death, right at the death when it really matters. But at the moment, I can't fancy Wigan. You know, they're so unpredictable. I've got to go for the draw. Confidence
is such a massive thing in football, and the 2 wingers, Johnson and McLean, are suddenly playing with confidence. I don't like Wigan at all. I think this could be the year that Martinez finally sends them down. I think Sunderland are a big price in this one.
West Brom against Aston Villa. You'd be wrong to back anybody other than West Brom, sure.
Well, that tells you how bad Villa are, because West Brom are on the crest of a slump at the moment. So they've been poor in recent weeks, including that dramatic game against Reading. But you just cannot see how Villa are going to get out of this. They're playing a gang of young kids. Benteke had that one game where he's a world beater against Liverpool. Since then, he's done nothing. You know, Villa are 4 to 1 in a derby. Still not big enough. I don't like West Brom, but they'll win. Yep, I'm going to go for a West Brom win because I just purely have to say the results. But they played well last week against Reading. 80 minutes, they were a decent side. And Lukaku looked very, very good. They'll be too good for Villa. I've been booked to host an evening with Paul Lambert in a couple of weeks' time. If either of you want to come along and help out. Good luck. Yeah, there'll just be the 3 of us. Chelsea against Arsenal. We move on to Sunday. I mean, a cracking fixture any time of the day. I quite fancy Chelsea in this one. And a bet that has caught for me over the last couple of weeks, we've mentioned it. I think both teams will score, but I do fancy Chelsea to win. That's a 5 to 2 shot, and that's the way I'm going to play this one. Chelsea and Arsenal a draw. I simply can't separate them. I was at Chelsea on Wednesday. They were poor. Arsenal playing a lot of decent football, but got no real punch. I'm still not convinced about Theo up top, so I've got to go for the draw. That was Pep Guardiola shooting past that bridge on his way to Bayern Munich. Tottenham against Manchester United. I reported on this game as a nipper. Yes. My dad was a journalist, and he sent me in the press box, and I got a feature in the old-style Sun. And Tottenham won. No, Manchester United won, it's a long time ago, forgive me, by 2 goals to 1. So do you see that happening again? No, I quite fancy Tottenham in this one. These are the 2 formed sides in the division, but I think Tottenham have got a puncher's chance. We say this week in, week out, United concede far too many, and I think this is one of those games where they could come unstuck. I fancy Spurs at a price around about 2 to 1. I'd have to go to draw simply because I thought Manchester United last week, first half, were excellent against Liverpool, but
when they started sitting back and, you know, just inviting Liverpool on, that's when they're at their worst, because I don't think they defend well enough. And that's when Alan's bet come into operation for me, because I don't think Liverpool were in the game for the first hour. So I'll have to say a draw for this one. I think Spurs will give them problems on the flanks. Bale and Lennon, full-backs for Manchester United, a little bit iffy, but Man United are going to score goals. And Rooney will probably be back with Van Persie. Can't see Spurs stopping them scoring, so a score draw for me.
Yep.
Well, you're on the fence, because you're alarmingly frequently of late. I just want to mention AVB at this, because he's my mate. I did an evening with AVB as well. Okay. That was very successful, because the guy's got a personality. He's very warm, he's personable, and he seems to be doing things where it matters on the pitch. Not
convinced, no, he might be a nice bloke and everything, but I think he says the right things. And it's all right saying the right things to people like yourself who are not a football person, but when you've actually got to talk to football people, then I'm not sure the players, if it hits the fans slightly, whether they're going to get the reaction from him.
And the reaction from me is that although I may not be a football person, I do book the guests on this programme. So next week there could be an empty chair there, which may be slightly more interesting. Southampton against Everton, the side that Graham Stuart helped found.
Well, indeed, and I think Southampton have improved. I mean, Tony saw them the other day. They've kept it tight in recent weeks. They were conceding far too many early on in the season. In the last 12, they conceded more than one just twice. So I think they can keep it tight against an Everton team who, yes, they're getting all the plaudits for the way they're playing, but quite honestly, they're drawing too many games. Plaudits, do you like that? They're drawing too many games. And I think this is another one. I'm going on Gale's fence, the draw for me.
Away win by Merseyside's top side, by a country mile as well. Even though Liverpool has spent far more money and they've got far more expense to the whole of their squad, they still remain the best team on Merseyside with the best manager. Correct, Matt?
I wouldn't know, I'm not a football person, but you spoke it like it is, as ever, and thanks for everything, and good luck in all that you do from now on in. Now, Alan Devonshire is a famous name, even more famous than him for West Ham fans, and also England fans. He was a great player, and alongside Trevor Brooking was a delight to behold, and I could go on, but there isn't time. But he was so good that a West Ham fan took the ultimate step and named his racehorse after him, and we went to see them both up at Newmarket.
Mid-morning on Newmarket Heath, and the cream of the country's racehorses are proving their worth under the eye of trainers, owners, footballers and football fans.
This is Alan Devonshire. He may look black and white, but unlike me, he's actually claret and blue through and through, named after West Ham legend Alan Devonshire. So I'm here in Mark Tompkins' yard to meet Alan Devonshire the horse and Alan Devonshire the man. Ow.
Trainer Mark Tompkins is no stranger to footballers and horses named after footballers.
I have called one or two after old Sheffield Wednesday footballers.
Have you?
I had a Waddle once. He was a bit slow. Waddle.
Did he have the little flick?
Well, no, he was a bit slow. He was, unfortunately.
One fan has combined his love for both sports by naming a horse after his all-time favourite player. Now the horse, his owner and the hero are all together enjoying the sunshine and the swimming pool at trainer Mark Tompkins' yard, and they're not the only ones.
And of all the great footballers that this country's seen throughout the years, why Alan Devonshire?
Well, I've been going West Ham since I was about 6. My dad took me, and Alan's one of the greatest footballers I saw. And I don't want to make you too big, but you know, actually, I mean, any West Ham fan of my sort of age would, I'm sure, agree with that. You know, he's one of the best footballers we ever had at Upton Park.
Alan ran in the Derby and the Cambridgeshire. Alan the horse, that is. Alan, the former England international and West Ham favourite, has a few words of caution for those who are trying to follow in his elegant footsteps.
It's a privilege to play football, you know, to get paid for something you love doing, and especially nowadays getting paid well. All you ask for, all fans ever ask for, is to train hard every day, play hard when you play, and give everything. I think some fans question that sometimes.
A word of warning from Alan and a shameless attempt to justify the expense of it all from Russell.
Sort of most people involved in racing are similar to myself, like a drink and a bet, you know. So you sort of mix in with like-minded people, you know.
That's why you're hanging out with footballers as well.
Maybe, yeah.
I don't drink, Lindsay.
They don't actually, no.
Well, that was filmed a while ago, and Alan Devonshire the horse and went on to complete in the Derby, where it ran backwards to finish third last. But it's always an honour to have a horse named after you. In fact, I was in the Tesco's canteen just the other day when the waitress asked me what I'd like on my burger. I said a £5 each way. Did we get away with that?
Yes.
Yeah.
This weekend's games, Alan, what are your top 3 bets?
Well, I mentioned this before. I do think Spurs can do the double over Manchester United. They won at Old Trafford, and I think they can do it again. They're a decent price. No Adebayor. I think that's a positive, and I think they can do it again. We're going against Sunderland. Forget what's happened in the Cup in midweek. Sunderland have improved. There's no two ways about that. Starting to score goals. Don't like Wigan at all. Again, Sunderland a big price. Then a final one. It's a bet that's copped for us over the last couple of weeks. Chelsea against Arsenal. I think both teams will score. I think both teams are ordinary, but I do fancy Chelsea to win. So both to score, Chelsea to win, around about 5-2.
Okay. What about you? Anything different?
What about me? I'm going to go for... I normally go for home and aways, as Al would tell you, but no, not this time, Anne-Marie. I'm going to go for Chelsea and Arsenal to draw. Bit of value, 9-4, as our punter says over there. Spurs, Man United, a bit of 9-4 as well, because I can't divide the two teams. Spurs beat them earlier on in the season and beat them well at Old Trafford, but United, I think, will defend deep, maybe hit them on the break. And the last one, Southampton, Everton. I know Shuey might have a bit of that as well, but I'm going to go for the Everton away win at even money. That's me 3.
Graham, anything different?
Well, Anne-Marie, I have to agree, as Tony just touched on there. I'm going to go with Everton away at Southampton.
Yeah.
Everton's away form has been very good, always capable of making chances. Even money represents good value as well for me, so I'm definitely going for Everton. Also, West Bromwich Albion at home. I know they've slipped up in the last couple of weeks, but a nice, tasty Midlands derby against Aston Villa. If ever there's a game you want to get your season back on track against, it's Aston Villa. Leading goals left, right and centre, aren't they? So I fancy West Brom 4-6. Short price, but put heavy money on it, you might get a bit of a return. And then my final one is a draw. I'm going to go for Swansea and Stoke to draw. 23-10, everything. It's one of those games where you look at and straight away draw.
Well, Swansea drawn 6 at home, and the other team Stoke 6 away. So
there you go, Al. You fill in the rest, eh? Perfect.
If he's on it, so we ain't.
Okay, thanks, guys.
Thanks, Anne-Marie. Well, actually, this week, it's the first time we've actually had a real footballer, no offence, Tony, on the programme. And Graham Stuart is game for a laugh. We always do keepy uppies at the end of the show, so we sent Graham and Tony out with Anne-Marie on their own because it's -5. See you next week.
I don't know where Lorenzo's gone. Probably his usual spot at the bar. He's a bit... What's the record for this show?
Myself and Anne-Marie, actually.
Good start, I'll tell you what, very, very good, Anne-Marie. Good start,